What if I told you there's this? Well, this powerful new tool coming along, something that could really reshape human potential. We're talking about significantly boosting your intelligence, maybe your kids' intelligence too. And get this, potentially making billions for whoever creates it. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we, try to cut through the noise and get into the really fascinating stuff. Today, we're looking at something pretty mind-bending, actually. It's this groundbreaking claim that artificial intelligence, well, that it's not just for making life easier. The idea is AI might be able to dramatically increase human IQ. Our deep dive today, it's based on some really compelling sources. Our main one is this document called AI IQ Boost, Billions in Brain Gain. And it doesn't just float the idea, it lays out this really bold vision, almost audacious, you could say, for enhancing our brains using AI. It kind of paints a future where intelligence isn't fixed, It's more like a skill you can improve a lot with technology.
Yeah, and it's really important to grasp this isn't about tiny, tiny gains. The thing that grabs you right away from the source is just the sheer scale of the IQ gains being talked about. Some of the research they cite suggests these really remarkable jumps, maybe up to 20 points.
20 points.
Yeah, potentially. And in just a matter of weeks, think about that for a second, a 20-point jump, that could take someone from, say, average cognitive ability way up to significantly above average, or it could totally change a child's learning path, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just personal self-improvement, it's potentially a massive uplift for society's capabilities. And yes, like the title says, there's this incredible commercial side to it. Billions, literally billions, for the developers who crack this and bring these IQ-enhancing AIs to market first.
Billions, yeah. That definitely gets your attention. And what I've found really compelling about our sources, it's not just the promise, which is huge, it's how they tackle the other side of the story head on. Those studies floating around that suggest AI might actually be bad for our thinking skills. Our source goes through them and, frankly, kind of meticulously debunks them.
Right. It sets up a really clear path for us today, doesn't it? We start with this incredible potential, which turns out to be backed by decades of solid cognitive research, surprisingly enough. And then we'll get into why the arguments from the skeptics maybe don't hold up, at least according to these sources.
Exactly. It should be a fascinating journey. Hopefully it challenges some assumptions and gives you, our listener, a better way to look at claims about tech and our minds. So, okay, let's really dive in. Right at the core of this, from our main source, is this really huge, almost world-changing idea. The potential for developers to make, and I quote, billions of dollars marketing AI teddy bears and adult tools that powerfully increase IQ. Just let that sink in. This isn't just, slightly better educational software. We're talking about a whole new economic frontier. And it's tied directly to making humans fundamentally smarter. And it's presented like it's not science fiction. It's a real, potentially very profitable thing that might be closer than we think. The idea is that improving intelligence itself becomes a product, a service, a highly valuable one.
What's really fascinating, and maybe gives this whole thing more weight, is that, well, the AI part is new, obviously, but the big idea, boosting intelligence through enrichment, that's absolutely not new. Our source starts by saying, look, there are decades of research demonstrating very strong IQ gains through enrichment strategies.
Right.
So this isn't just wishful tech thinking.
Yeah.
It's about taking what we already know works from psychology, from education, for generations, and then applying this incredibly powerful new tech, AI, to make those proven methods scalable.
So we've seen this work before, just not with AI.
Exactly. We've seen big, measurable cognitive improvements in controlled settings before. The difference now is AI could offer scale, personalization, access, potentially bringing these enrichment strategies to everyone.
Okay, but it's not just any AI, right? Like, I can't just chat with my regular AI assistant and expect my IQ to jump.
No, absolutely not. And the source is really, really clear on this distinction. It's crucial. These big gains, these potential IQ boosts, they only happen if the AIs are specifically trained for IQ enhancement, and just as important, if they're used properly.
Oh.
So this isn't about using your everyday AI for, like, checking facts or drafting emails and hoping for some sort of cognitive benefit by osmosis. We're talking about AIs that are engineered, designed from the very beginning with one dedicated purpose: sharpening human reasoning, boosting working memory, accelerating cognitive abilities.
Ah, I see. So the design intention is everything.
Precisely. That distinction is key. It separates this future potential from the general AI tools that some studies, which we'll get to, might be looking at and maybe misinterpreting.
It's about targeted design. Got it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Specific architecture, the teaching methods embedded in the AI itself. That's what matters. And the scale of promise, like you said, it's
Yeah.
just, wow, the source throws out numbers like up to 20 points in as few as 20 days.
20 points in 20 days. That sounds almost too good to be true.
It's astonishing, isn't it? But to put it in perspective, a 20-point gain,
Yeah.
that could be the difference between really struggling in school and absolutely excelling. Or between feeling kind of intellectually stuck and having this deep capacity for abstract thought and complex problem solving.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah, no kidding.
And the speed they're talking about, just a few weeks, that's what makes it revolutionary. It's
Yeah.
moving the needle on intelligence way faster than we ever thought possible outside of really specific intensive programs.
So, okay, let's connect this directly to the listener. Why should you care about this? Well, imagine the immediate real-world impact of being able to boost your cognitive ability that quickly, that accessibly. Think about learning complex new skills for your job. Maybe not in months, but in weeks. Imagine understanding complicated global issues more easily, or just handling everyday problems with, much better problem-solving skills and mental quickness. And then think bigger, society-wide. If lots of people, whole generations, get these kinds of boosts, what does that mean?
The applications are staggering.
Right. Could we solve things like climate change faster? What new science or art might emerge if we just had more people capable of that kind of high-level thinking?
It moves beyond just personal improvement.
Yeah, it becomes a potential societal transformation, redefining our collective potential. That's why you care. Okay, so that's the big picture, the vision. Let's dig into the specifics now, starting where intelligence really takes root. Early childhood. Our source spends a lot of time on the research showing how crucial early life is for cognitive development. And that leads naturally to this kind of charming idea of AI, teddy bears, and other robotic toys for infants and toddlers.
Right.
It sounds cute, but the idea is serious. It's about using AI to provide this super personalized cognitive enrichment right from the very beginning, like hardwiring a higher IQ baseline from day one.
And this is where that strong historical research foundation really comes into play. It's so important for understanding why this AI idea isn't just pulled out of thin air. The source details several key studies that show just how powerful enriched environments are for kids' IQs. This builds the case for how AI could potentially amplify those effects.
Yeah.
Take the famous Skills and Die study from way back in 1939.
Okay.
It's really quite remarkable. They looked at young kids in institutions, orphanages basically, which back then were often pretty sterile, not very stimulating places. But when some of these kids were moved to a more stimulating environment, one with more attention, interaction, warmth, they showed incredible cognitive growth. These kids gained an average of 28 IQ points.
That's 28.
Yes, within just 2 years. It's a massive leap, driven purely by changing the environment to be more enriching and responsive. It just shows how incredibly responsive the developing brain is to quality stimulation.
Wow, 28 points. That
Yeah.
really drives home the power of the environment. It wasn't just fixed potential.
Exactly. And then, building on that, there was follow-up research by Skodak and Skeels in 1949. They looked at adopted children. They tracked kids adopted very early into more nurturing, stimulating homes. And they found these kids gained about 20 IQ points by the time they were adolescents, compared to what you'd expect based just on their biological mother's IQs, who often came from less advantaged backgrounds.
So environment overcoming genetics to some extent.
It provides really strong long-term evidence for that, yes. It shows that a good environment, especially during those key developmental years, can really shape intelligence, maybe lifting a child's potential way beyond what you might have predicted. Potential isn't destiny, it suggests.
It's about the impact of moving into that better environment. That seems key. It's dynamic.
Precisely. And then you have Scar and Weinberg in 1976. They added another important piece. They studied black children adopted into enriched, typically middle-class families. They found these kids gained about 16 IQ points by age 7, compared to estimates for similar kids who weren't adopted.
16 points.
Yeah.
Still very significant.
Absolutely. It reinforces the idea that an enriched family environment, one with intellectual stimulation, support, books, educational activities, chances to explore, really boosts cognitive development, regardless of background. It's about access to nurturing resources.
And it seems like the window for these gains might be wider than people think. It's not just infancy.
You're absolutely right. That's a great point. The Douay, Dumouriez, and Tomkiewicz study from 1999 is really striking on this. They looked at kids adopted later between 4 and 6 years old. And even adopted at that age, moving into high socioeconomic status families with rich environments, they still gained an average of 19.5 IQ points by adolescence.
19.5 points, even starting later.
Yes. It's powerful proof that even if the earliest years weren't ideal, Significant cognitive gains are still very possible later in childhood if the environment becomes stimulating enough. Intelligence remains malleable.
Okay, so here's the connection back to the AI teddy bears.
Yeah.
How does the source link this history to that future vision?
Right. The source argues that these AI toys wouldn't just be passive. They'd be specifically designed, trained, to basically replicate and then amplify the kind of stimulating environment that produced those amazing IQ gains in the historical studies.
Amplify how?
Imagine an AI companion that doesn't just react, but adapts to the child's specific developmental stage. It identifies their cognitive weak spots and gives them personalized challenges, perfectly tuned for growth. Think about an AI engaging them in sophisticated problem-solving, nurturing curiosity, providing constant, responsive, intellectually rich interaction. Maybe more consistently than even a dedicated human caregiver could, 24/7.
Huh.
The source suggests this could lead to gains in IQ that will serve them for the rest of their lives, essentially building a higher baseline intelligence from the start.
That's a huge claim. Building a better foundation, literally.
And there's another interesting layer the source mentions. Beyond just IQ, it says these toys could also be designed to help children make better moral decisions.
Moral decisions, like teaching ethics through play.
Kind of. It suggests a more holistic approach. The AI isn't just a logic tutor, but maybe a guide for understanding empathy, fairness, right and wrong, consequences, all woven into the play.
Interesting. Shaping character as well as intellect.
It adds another dimension to the potential impact, for sure.
And then, let's not forget the money angle. It keeps coming back.
It does.
The source is blunt. Developers can expect to earn billions of dollars marketing these IQ-enhancing toys. It's framed not just as a good idea for humanity, but as this massive untapped market. The first companies to really nail this, especially for kids, they stand to gain this huge competitive edge. I mean, imagine the demand for a toy that could provably make your child smarter.
The economic incentive is immense. It definitely aligns with that dual focus, the brain gain and the market potential, the convergence of aspiration and opportunity.
Okay, so that covers the childhood angle, but you mentioned earlier this isn't just for kids.
That's right. And this is critical for listeners who maybe don't have young kids. The source is clear. The IQ-enhancing effect is not limited to children. The potential for significant cognitive improvement extends across the lifespan. So AI tools could be huge for adults too, sharpening minds, learning faster, better problem-solving, career boost, personal growth.
Lifelong learning, supercharged by AI. So what does the research show for adults? Are the gains similar?
The source pulls out some compelling examples here too, showing that targeted stimulation works for adults as well. Neuroplasticity isn't just for the young brain. For instance, there's a study by Yanji, Bushkuhl, Jonades, and Perig from 2008. They had young adults do something called dual end-back cognitive training. It's a pretty tough working memory task.
Okay, what's that involve?
You basically have to track sequences of things you see and hear simultaneously. It's like a heavy-duty mental workout, pushing your attention, information processing, working memory. And after just 19 days of this training in an enriched setting, they gained about 5 fluid IQ points.
5 points in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah. And specifically fluid intelligence. That's your ability to reason and solve new problems, independent of stuff you've already learned. It's a quick, noticeable improvement in core thinking ability.
So it's not just learning facts, it's making the engine run better, so to speak.
Exactly. Enhancing the underlying machinery.
Yeah.
Then you have Stankoff and Lee from 2020. They looked at longer-term gains. They studied late adolescents, like 18, 19-year-olds, in intensive creative problem-solving training programs. Over 4 years, these individuals gained an impressive 10 to 15 IQ points compared to control groups.
Wow, 10 to 15 points over 4 years, that's substantial, especially for young adults starting out.
It really is. It shows that sustained engagement with complex creative challenges can lead to big, lasting improvements in overall cognitive ability. It's about constantly pushing your thinking.
And who else could benefit? Does it apply across the board?
Well, perhaps one of the most powerful examples comes from Lifshitz, Schnitzer, Marovich, and Vaikil in 2023. They studied adults with intellectual disabilities who were in post-secondary education programs designed for cognitive growth. Compared to peers not in the programs, these adults gained an average of 6 to 19 IQ points over about 4.5 years.
6 to 19 points for adults with intellectual disabilities.
Yes. It's incredible. It shows that even people facing cognitive challenges who maybe were thought to have limited room for IQ growth can see remarkable improvements with the right kind of structured, enriching education. It really broadens the scope of who could benefit.
That's actually quite inspiring. It suggests the potential for growth is more universal than we might think.
It really does. It challenges assumptions about cognitive limits.
So if these studies show adult brains can be trained like this, how does the source see AI fitting in? What are these adult tools it mentions?
The connection is direct. These AI adult tools wouldn't just be generic learning apps. The source says they'd be specifically trained to help people learn to reason better.
Learn to reason better. How?
Imagine sophisticated AI that adapts perfectly to your learning style. It figures out your specific cognitive weak spots, maybe it's working memory for you or logical reasoning for someone else, and then it gives you tailored exercises, adaptive challenges, like a hyper-personalized cognitive coach that's infinitely patient and always pushes you just the right amount.
So it targets the core functions of IQ directly?
Exactly. It aims to improve how you think, learn, and solve problems more effectively.
Okay, let's bring that back home for the listener again. Think about those numbers. What could even a 5-point IQ boost mean in your job? Maybe grasping complex stuff faster, solving new problems more easily.
Being more agile in your thinking as things change.
Right. Now imagine a 10 or even 19-point game over a few years. Could you pivot careers more easily? Master a whole new field? Just feel more confident in navigating this complex world.
The relevance is very personal. It's potentially transformative for your own path.
Okay. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room, the skepticism. Because you hear it, right? Concerns that AI might actually be making us dumber. This idea of cognitive offloading, where we rely on tech and our own skills atrophy.
It's a common concern.
And it feels valid, doesn't it? Given how much we use AI now. But our source tackles this directly. It basically sets out to debunk these negative claims.
Yes, this is a really crucial part of the source's argument. It addresses that narrative head-on. The core stance, based on its analysis, is this. My personal analysis suggests that AIs have not yet been specifically trained to increase user IQ. And that specific training would make all of the difference in the world.
Okay, so the problem isn't AI itself, but how we're using the current AIs.
Exactly, and what they were trained for. Your typical chatbot or search engine, they're built for convenience, finding info, generating text. They're not built to make you smarter. Getting to an IQ-boosting AI needs that deliberate, targeted training, focused on cognitive development. And that's mostly missing from the AIs looked at in those skeptical studies.
It's like complaining your calculator isn't teaching you long division. Wrong tool for the job.
Precisely. Or maybe wrong training for the tool.
And the source goes deeper, right? It points out specific flaws in those negative studies, using analysis from an advanced AI called Grok 4.
That's right. Our primary source AI IQ Boost actually uses this AI, Grok 4, for its analysis. So, yeah, it's kind of meta. An AI critiquing studies about AI's impact on humans.
Huh. Okay, let's hear the critique. What did Grok 4 find?
It's pretty systematic. Let's take the paper. AI Tools in Society. Impacts on Cognitive Offloading and the Future of Critical Thinking. Grok 4's critique. The study relies on self-reported measures which may introduce bias.
Self-reported, meaning people just said how they felt.
Yeah. They asked participants what they thought about their cognitive skills after using AI. It wasn't based on objective tests of their actual abilities. And people's self-perceptions, they can be way off. Biased, influenced by wanting to look good, or just not accurate about their own thinking. That's a big flaw if you're trying to measure real cognitive change.
Okay, so it's measuring feelings, not facts. Got it. What else?
Then there's effects of generative artificial intelligence on cognitive effort and task performance. Grok 4 found multiple issues here. First, it's just a study protocol without actual results. It lacks empirical findings.
Wait, so they didn't actually do the study?
Apparently not yet, according to this analysis. They just described how they plan to do it. No actual data collected.
Okay, that's a pretty big flaw.
Huge. And it also relies on convenient sampling from a weird population which may not generalize broadly.
Weird. What's that?
Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. Basically, often university students from a very specific background. So even if they had results, you couldn't easily apply them to everyone globally.
Right.
And again, it uses self-reported surveys that could introduce response or social desirability bias. Same problem, relying on potentially biased subjective statements.
So no results, narrow group, unreliable reporting method. Not looking good for that one.
Definitely limits its claims. Okay, next. AI tools may weaken critical thinking skills by encouraging cognitive offloading. Grok 4's point here, The findings are based on cross-sectional data that cannot establish causality.
Cross-sectional, like a snapshot in time.
Exactly. You look at things at one moment, you might see the people who use AI also report less critical thinking at that moment. That's a correlation. But you absolutely cannot say the AI caused the lower critical thinking. Maybe people who think less critically are more likely to use AI. Maybe something else causes both.
Correlation isn't causation, basic science.
Fundamental. To show cause, you need studies over time or controlled experiments. This didn't have that. And surprise, surprise, self-reported measures may introduce response bias. Again,
Seeing a pattern here. Lots of self-reporting, lots of correlation, mistaken for causation.
a very clear pattern. Then, the impact of generative AI on critical thinking. Self-reported reductions in cognitive effort. Grok 4. The survey depends entirely on self-reported perceptions, which could be influenced by participants' biases or inaccurate recollections. Same issue, relying entirely on what people think or feel about their own cognitive effort without objective measures. Very shaky ground.
It really undermines the conclusions if the core data is just perception.
Precisely. And finally, a reflection on the impact of artificial intelligence chatbots on human cognition. Grok 4 calls this one largely speculative and lacks empirical data, restricting its conclusions to hypotheses rather than evidence-based insights.
So more of a think piece, less of a scientific study?
Essentially, yes. Theoretical discussion, ideas, predictions valuable for starting conversations, but not hard evidence of AI's negative effects. You can't treat hypotheses as proven facts.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. What's the takeaway from this debunking section? The common problems seem to be relying on self-reports, not objective tests, sometimes having no actual data at all, and confusing correlation with causation.
That sums it up well.
And the source's main point is these flawed studies are looking at general AIs, not the specifically trained IQ-boosting AIs we're talking about. So their conclusions, even if they were methodologically sound, which they often aren't, wouldn't necessarily apply to this future vision anyway. Is that right?
That's exactly the argument. The studies are asking the wrong question about the wrong type of AI, often using flawed methods. It's a critical distinction for listeners to understand when they hear claims about AI making us dumber.
Right. Context matters. The type of AI matters. The training matters.
Absolutely. And what's powerful is when you step back and look at the other evidence. All those studies over 80 years, the childhood enrichment ones, the adult cognitive training ones, they all point in the same direction. They strongly suggest that intelligence can be enhanced through targeted stimulation. So the idea that AI, if designed specifically for that purpose, could powerfully increase human IQ, it lines up with decades of research. It's not coming out of nowhere.
It's applying known principles with a powerful new tool.
Exactly. It's leveraging what we already know about neural plasticity and cognitive enhancement, but potentially making it scalable and personalized like never before. The knowledge base is there.
And maybe the most exciting or maybe slightly unnerving claim from the source, it says today's AIs are already more than intelligent enough to achieve this goal. Meaning we don't need to wait for some future superintelligence. The tech capability fundamentally is here now.
That's the implication. The computing power, the algorithms, our understanding of AI, right. It's reached a point where building these cognitive enhancers is technically feasible.
So it's less about inventing radically new AI, more about applying what we have in a very focused way.
That seems to be the source's perspective. It's about intentional design and application for this specific goal, boosting human cognition.
Which brings us right back to that commercial race.
Indeed. The billions of dollars potential for whoever gets there first with effective, reliable, IQ-enhancing toys and adult tools.
The first mover advantage would be huge. Imagine being the company offering parents a proven way to boost their kids' cognitive potential.
Or offering adults a real way to get measurably smarter, learn faster, solve problems better.
The demand would be enormous, wouldn't it? It taps into such a fundamental human desire to be smarter for ourselves and our kids.
It's potentially one of the biggest markets imaginable, built right on human aspiration.
So wrapping this up, thinking about the big picture for you, our listener, if this really happens, if boosting IQ becomes widely accessible, like downloading an app, what does that mean for society?
The implications are profound.
Right. How do education systems change if IQ isn't mostly fixed? How does global problem-solving change if the average person is cognitively enhanced?
Think about science, innovation, medicine. A smarter population could accelerate everything.
And maybe even change how we define intelligence itself. if it becomes something you can actively cultivate and boost so dramatically.
It forces us to rethink a lot of fundamental assumptions. A future that really demands careful thought.
It really does. It invites us to imagine a completely different landscape for human potential. Okay, so there we have it. We've gone deep today. We started with that solid historical evidence for cognitive enhancement, going back decades. Then we explored this really ambitious vision for AI boosting IQ in kids and adults, promising huge gains. And importantly, we looked at why those negative studies about AI might be flawed, according to our source, Wrong AI, Bad Methods.
Yeah, the takeaway seems to be the principles for boosting IQ are known, and today's AI might just be the tool to finally scale it up for everyone, making widespread cognitive enhancement a real possibility.
So, as you go about your day, here's something to chew on, a final thought. If the tech to significantly boost IQ is basically here, and the money is definitely there, what happens next? What new human achievements become possible? And maybe, what ethical questions do we need to start asking right now as these tools start to emerge?
It really makes you wonder what a world with a higher average IQ might look like and what we could achieve together.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the ideas shaping our world.